good attempt at deflecting. You know, a lot of men do that here, and eventually they'll understand it a little bit more. N, age and pronouns. Please, welcome.
Yeah, what's up, Blex? I've been in a couple times. Age is 30. Pronouns is he and him.
Thank you. Which prompt you disagree with?
I just had an issue with the last and it's called probably body count. I think. Yeah, I've been thinking about that a lot.
Yep. What do you want to say about it?
I just think men telling women that obviously what to wear. Obviously, they can wear what they want. I have no problem with that. But we both know that men are very predatory, right? We know that. So based off that, if I was to tell my partner, listen, I don't want you to wear this, right? For your own safety, it would not be me, you know, it would be me protecting my partner. It would not be, it's not.
It doesn't protect your partner. Because clothing is not the reason why men behave like this. That's the problem. Men sexualize women regardless of clothing. If that was the case, you'd be seeing it every time women were at beaches. Because at the beach, arguably, women wear bikinis. So we know clothing's not the issue. Otherwise, you'd be seeing SA at beaches off the scale in terms of numbers, right? So men trying to police it in a different environment and trying to say that clothing is the reason is not a consistent thing that we see in all different environments. The clothing is not the reason. If you look at the What Were They Wearing museum, we've got clothing that are all the way from nappies to school uniform to full workers and full on, fully covered. Clothing is never the issue. And whenever you try to put an emphasis on the survivor or victim in that case, doing something different, you're removing responsibility away from the perpetrator and putting it on.
No.
But that's what
I would never do something like that. I think
that's
men are 100% responsible.
What I'm saying is the narrative of that is that's what that narrative does. That narrative is saying you need to change something because this perpetrator, we can't do anything about it.
But it's the same as telling a thief, like, you can't rob a house, right? A thief is gonna rob a house regardless, right? But here's all I'm saying is, I just wanna, if I had a girlfriend, I wanna make her safe, right? So I would tell her, listen, babe, do not go out. You can go out, but make sure you go out. If you're gonna dress a certain way, make sure you go to these places that are safe, right?
Places aren't safe. It's like you can't find specific places that are safe because now we go down the route of, do you know where statistically the most unsafe place for a woman is? It's her own home. So then you might as well be upholding the notion that women shouldn't be moving in with men.
I mean, the library would be safer than a nightclub. That's what I'm saying.
But a nightclub is safer than your home.
Yeah, a library will be safer, no?
Yeah, but a nightclub is safer than your home.
Yeah.
So statistically, you're still saying that location is part of the problem. It's not. It's men's behavior that's the problem. Men's behavior can appear anywhere.
Yeah.
So trying to focus on location or trying to focus on clothing, all you're doing is avoiding the conversation of men's behavior and focusing on what women can do differently, what women can change, what women that puts responsibility on women. It's saying you're the one that needs to change something to ensure it doesn't happen to you. The reason it's called grape culture is because you telling her what she should wear.
No, I hear it.
Is saying make sure it doesn't happen to you, but it happens to someone else.
Trust me, I completely understand. All I have to say to that is, if a shoplifter was to come to your house, right, you'd make sure that you bolt the doors, right? You make sure that everything. Sorry, I'm sure you probably heard this before, but you make sure that you bolt the doors. You make sure that everything is safe. You have the cameras available to see the shoplifter. You make sure you've got alarms installed, right? So that if that shoplifter comes in, everything is going to go, and that shoplifter is deterred. You understand? So when I tell my girl, listen, babes, be careful where you go to. It's not anything to monitor. I don't want to say that she can't wear what she wants, but it's just to deter people that might see her as a victim, because there's guys that are out there that are predators. Listen, I'll be honest. I've got
But it doesn't
friends.
deter. It doesn't
No,
deter men.
I'm gonna tell you something. Like, I've got friends that go out there and they see women that dress in very revealing outfits, and that's what they want to. That's what attracts them. They say, okay, she's skimpy, let
Sorry,
me
wait. Sorry,
approach
you're
that.
telling me that you are talking to predatory men. You're
Yeah,
telling me that men. So you're talking to predatory men that are telling you what they are wanting to do to women.
they don't grape women. They don't do anything, but generally when you're around men, they will tell you, listen, if you approach certain women, if they're just if they got tattoos, if they look a certain way,
And this
don't
is
approach them.
ridiculous. This is ridiculous. What are these men telling you? Are they your friends?
Yeah, but they
So
don't they
your
don't they don't
friends.
abuse women. They
Hold on,
don't
hold
abuse
on,
women.
hold on. So your friends are telling you that these type of women are what, more likely to be raped?
Not raped, but more likely to be susceptible to sexual encounters. No offense. They say
Based
it's
on what?
easier,
Based on what?
just more revealing. I think it's something to do with menstrual cycle, so they have more.
And like, I'm not even going to say respectfully, but I'm not platforming you again with that. That's absolutely vile. Ale, Asian pronouns, please.
22, he, him.
Thank
I.
you. Which prompt do you disagree with?
Okay, so all men until women, I can't agree. Men telling their partners what to wear are upon the rape culture.
Great.
Yeah, even if I think that maybe some men can have like half good intentions, but it's still like not a good thing to tell their like your partner what to wear. So what I mean with good intention is maybe they think, but I'm doing it for to protect her, but it's still not very a nice thing to do. And what do you mean with don't mention misandry until there's no misogyny?
So, in what ways would you say misandry misandry exists?
Misandry exists simply because it's a man-made concept. So you cannot really say misandry doesn't exist.
Well, just because something's a man-made concept doesn't make it exist.
Well, like as a concept, yeah. Are you asking me how misandry exists in real life? Like how
Yeah, because if
woman?
it's not existing in real life, then it doesn't really have an effect, does it? So it's not doing anything.
Yeah, obviously, but
So then
yeah,
it doesn't exist.
like how it exists. I don't know really how to respond that question because to me, simply when a woman hates on men, there's a example of misandry.
So show me how that's done. What, like a woman just goes, "Hey, I hate men," and then what? That's just now misandry? Is that it?
No, simply hating men with other like. You can hate men in a lot of ways. Simply, for example, treating a man badly simply because he's a man is misandry. So that's that. But if you like, let me think for a couple of minutes, I can say a lot of like generic stuff. I don't really understand the question. Obviously, you can do a lot of things to like.
Just
Don't
give me examples. The issue I have when men talk about misandry is they come up on the platform or the panel here and they don't give me anything. They just say, "Oh, women hating men," and it's like, okay, how? Like, explain to me how, because when I tell you the ways in which men show that hatred to women, we see statistically with grape, SA, unaliving, we see the oppression from patriarchy. So, what is it that women are doing that demonstrates the hate?
like so obviously like a woman can hate a man, so she can simply hate men badly in general. For example, maybe if she's talking with a group of people and in that group of people there is a man, he can like she can decide to not talk to the man or simply hating on him, like giving bad words on him, like such things. Obviously, I'm not saying that there are systemic effects of
How does it?
misandry. I'm saying that
How?
obviously you can demonstrate there are many representation of misandry, but it's not really like enormous stuff. It's simply a person hitting on another person.
Hey, I'm just looking for ways that we see this, and I'm not hearing anything. I'm not hearing how men are affected by this. Like,
But I told you, you simply decided not to listen.
but as in, like, what's the effects of it?
Maybe a man being a little sad because a woman treated him badly without any reason.
How did she treat him individually badly? Like, by saying
Sorry,
what?
sorry, I told you like just 2 seconds ago.
What? So just saying I hate you?
No, simply as I said. Sorry, Lex. It's like you're not hearing me. As I said, simply ignoring, for example,
I know you gave an example of ignoring him, but I'm just like thinking, is that it? Like what? Like a little sad ignore? I'm trying to understand. I've given you comparisons of being unalived, being raped, and being essayed. Your response to that was like just being
Yes,
sad.
but as I said, misandry cannot really have big effects because it's not systemical, and I literally me myself say that it's. But the fact that it has not great effects on people does not mean that a woman cannot be a misandrist. Even thinking about I hate men so much. It's misandry. The fact that you can choose to not act upon it does not make you not a misandrist. The fact that a man can think, "Oh, women are lesser than me," "Oh, I hate women," and not act upon that thoughts. Does not mean that he's not a misogynist, okay? So even if you don't have a practical example of a person doing something, it's not like that person is not a misandrist or it's not a misogynist. It's stupid to think so.
Let's not use the word stupid because that's ableist. So again,
Okay, so it's illogical. Do you like it more?
So again, basically, you're saying that because a woman can say, or because a woman can ignore him, and maybe say that they hate men, that's just what misandry is, basically. Just a couple
No,
of
simply disrespecting men just because they're men. Such things. As I said, there are no great like example like we have for misogyny. For example, for misogyny, we have grape culture,
so that's my point, right?
mothers.
The reason why I say don't mention misandry until there's no misogyny is because if you want to talk about men hearing women say that they, are ignoring them or they don't like them or they hate them, I'm saying in comparison to women being unalived, raped, and essayed, don't even mention misandry because that's nothing in comparison. It's just non-existent in terms of the effects or anything.
Okay, so you agree that it exists, but simply have.
No, I don't.
No,
Like,
you just said that it's practically non-existent.
You saying a woman just ignoring a man is misandry is ridiculous.
No, I didn't say that.
That was an example you gave. You said
I didn't say that. I said that an example of a misandrist hating upon men can be ignoring a man simply because he's a man. I didn't say that a woman ignoring a man is a misandrist. That's a manipulation of my words. Don't do it, Lex. Thank you.
I don't know what you think you're doing, but it's not working. You did just say
no. I'm not doing anything.
Stop interrupting me. You did just say that ignoring a man is an example of misandry.
If a person is a misandrist, I say that a misandrist ignoring a man is an example of her hate. It's not like a person simply ignoring a man is a misandrist.
You think ignoring?
I was really simple. I was very clear, and I also say to Lex.
I'm gonna mute you because you just don't stop talking over me. It's really disrespectful. Kitty, hello.
Okay, sorry, go on.
Hi, Kitty.
Hi, Kitty42, she, her. Guests, please stay muted until we finish talking. Thank you, because there's people.
Sorry.
No, stay muted. None of us have finished talking yet. There are people here who will be using screen readers, and if you continue to interrupt, people cannot then follow what is being said in the live. Okay, so stop interrupting.
Yeah,
Thank
sorry.
you. No, stay muted. Thank you. You're interrupting. You're interrupting. Please stay muted. Okay, I'm going to ask a question.
Yeah,
and I'll ask you. No, I am going to ask you a question. Mute up now, please, or I will. Mute yourself. Thank you. I will ask you a question, then I'll ask you to unmute. Okay, that is not yet. Okay. Now, please give me some concrete examples or sources where men are impacted systemically by misandry, and not women ignoring men and making them a little bit sad. You may unmute now. Thank you.
Kitty, did you hear our conversation between me and Lex?
Yeah, because I'm a moderator in the space and I've been sitting listening alongside moderating the chat.
No, it's not a bad faith question. It was a simple question. Did you hear the entire conversation between me and Lex?
So once again, I've said yes.
Oh, okay. And it's simply because you have an accent and I don't. English is not my main language, so maybe I'm losing some words. I clearly said to Lex that the effects of misandry aren't comparable to the effects of misogyny, and I already Lex. I hope you listen to me when I said that misandry is not systemical, and for that reason cannot be compared to misogyny. Lex, can you say that I in fact say that?
I'm just waiting for you to answer Kitty's question.
So, Kitty, if you would have heard me, there is no question to ask me about that, because I already said that misandry is not systemical.
Well,
I cannot give example because I agree with you.
Okay, that's fine. Thank you very much. So the point is that I would say is, now I typically don't believe misandry is systemically harming anyone. Like I think we've all agreed here, haven't we, Lex?
Yep.
Yeah, thank you. However, what I would say is men do cause the most disproportionate harm to women, femme and people and girls. And I would always stand by the point, I think men are the biggest misandrists. Do you know who the people that come in to these spaces and cause the most disruption? This is an educational space for men to unpack misogyny. I know who are the ones predominantly that disrupt this space, or are disrespectful, or need to get muted, or cause harm, and don't typically appear to want other men to be educated or supported or helped. It's other men.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you'd think that if men knew what's best for men, they'd come in here and actually support their misogyny being unpacked. But instead, it's thrown against them and made as a joke or mocking. Men will use marginalized communities to I suppose uphold harm. I would say that's probably a misandrous view as well. Upholding the misogyny and not wanting to unpack it is not wanting what's best for other men. It's actually, what's causing them to suffer more.
So, Kitty and Lexa, to summarize my point, I agree with you that misandry doesn't have big effects on society, because it isn't systemical, because we live in a patriarchy, so it's not like you can have any other systemical oppression. So once agreed with that, and we are on the same line, the fact that misandry does not have significant effects on men does not mean it doesn't exist. That is my only point. There is not logical correlation in saying that if something does not have enormous consequences, that then it does not exist. There isn't a logical correlation in that, okay? So my only point is saying that misandry does exist, but it's such a small problem that I wouldn't even care about resolving it or talking about it. The only reason why I made my point is to respond to yours, to your prompt. Okay, Lex?
But you're
Tell me if I've been clear. Sorry, English is not my first language, as I said.
But instead, what you're doing is trying to argue for misandry existing, as opposed to the prompt saying don't mention it until misogyny has disappeared. So I like that's not even what the prompt is saying.
Yeah, no, Lex, but simply because when we were talking about it, the first thing, like I asked you to clarify the prompt, and the first thing you say to me is that it doesn't really exist, and you asked me to give examples. So that was the starting point of the conversation. But
I don't think.
yeah, as I said, I agree that it doesn't have any systemical impact on society.
Sure. I don't think ignoring men is an example of misandry. I don't think an example of even just saying I hate men is an example of misandry.
No, like hating on men simply because they're men, or ignoring a man simply because he's a man, not caring about the context, because obviously if you ignore a man in a discussion about abortion, it is it has a logical reason.
They're men. The hate
Sorry?
the hate is not because they are men. The hate is because of the behaviors of men. That's the difference.
Well, you can if that's the case, a person is not a misandrist, but I'm talking about misandrist. Obviously, misandrists do exist, also because there are people who literally define themselves as misandrists. So it's not like you can say that they're not real. So what I'm saying that obviously the problem would be when a person is ignoring a man simply because he's a man, not because we are talking about abortion, so it's not a man topic, not for any other reason. My point is that when, for example, it's just an example, when when a woman ignore a man simply because he's a man and she dislike men and don't want to hear him talk, that's an example of misandry. But it's not like any person, like any woman ignoring a man is a misandrist because of that. Okay.
Didn't you just say, though, that was an example of misandry?
No, Kitty, maybe because there is a language barrier and I cannot really express myself. But the point I just made is my final, is my thought.
So you've mentioned abortion a couple of times as well in relation to what men not being allowed to talk on that subject.
Well, I don't think a woman should care a lot about what as a man have to say about it.
Yeah, I would agree, because it's a person with a uterus's body autonomy.
Yeah.
Okay, I think maybe we'll just wrap this one up, because I think we're maybe misaligning perhaps on certain points and things as well. But yeah, thank you for being respectful and not interrupting any further when asked to. Okay.
Sorry if I interrupted earlier.
It's all good. It's all good. We'll leave that one there. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Bye. Have a good day.
Thank you. Thank you, Kitty. Appreciate it.
Hang on, one point.
Yes.
One point. I'm just going to say as well. Scottish people are people with stronger accents as well. So quite a few comments are often made about my accent or Charlotte's accent, and it's often other people who have stronger accents as well. We understand there may be English may not be people's first language, of course, totally understand that as well. But it is often the women mods with the stronger accents, Scottish or Welsh, that are having to somehow dilute or adjust their accents accordingly for others. And I'm just saying, just please be mindful of that, because we certainly do not say that to any of the other guests or anything like that as well. We understand there may be language barriers and such, but the last thing I'm going to do is dilute or mute my accent. By the way, you see all the disrespectful, vile individuals that are insulting in the chat, you're all getting blocked. Okay, we're not doing this. There's a lot of people in here and there's people waiting. Okay, but all I'm going to say is this: we don't insult how people talk. We're not going to correct how people talk either, and we're not going to police people's accents, regardless if anyone else has an accent. Okay, so just to be mindful of that. Anyway, thanks all.
Thanks, Kitty. Much love.
Bye. Yeah, bye.
Bye-bye. I have no idea on the order, so I do apologise. So let's go with ordinary man, age and pronouns, please.
Yeah, I mean, hello, good evening. Respectfully, I'm here. I saw the most patriarchal speech in the world, woman trying to make an argument that they have the rights to do stuff. And that's the most racist thing that I've seen in my whole life. No one blocked this person. It's unbelievable. No one blocked the person who's trying to say that women should have the right to this kind of thing that no one explained. No one tried to explain what it was. You know, perhaps psychologists, perhaps therapists, perhaps even politicians and people from the law, lawyers. So my argument is, why you listen to this? Why you listen to this? And you don't have an opinion about it. My opinion is,
if you're gonna just keep talking, drop down. Yeah. What comment are you talking about that we've not seen in the chat that anyone has said? Like what has been said? You can unmute.
yeah, you blocked me already. So
I muted you because you kept on talking. What comment are you talking about? Because I've seen nothing in the chat.
yeah, in your opinion is muting, but in my opinion is you blocked me, and that is called.
Blocking means you can't come back and you can't access this live. I didn't do that. I muted you so I could speak. What comment are you talking about? Because there's nothing in the chat that we haven't already addressed.
So in the lights of constitutional speech, you block me. So you don't want me to speak. So that's okay. So I will try to do my speech again. So you were trying to promote an idea that women are oppressed about, whatever. And I would like to listen to whatever that is. And in my view,
Twin spikes. I mean, what is going on? I'll be back in a second. There's prompts literally there. If you disagree with them, please request to talk about them. Otherwise, I don't know what's going on. I genuinely. Hayden, Asian pronouns, please.
Hey, what's up, Lex?
Yeah. Asian pronouns, please.
Oh, I'm 23, and he, him.
Thank you. Which prompt do you disagree with?
I mean, I could talk about any one of them, but I don't I don't really have a black and white, like, opposite view of you, probably.
So yeah, just pick one. Which one do you disagree with?
I'd say the most opposite viewpoint that I probably have from you is well, I'll just start at the top. Let's say actually I agree with that one. I would say body count does matter. I would say men are generally I would say they're more designed for being protectors, providers.
No,
I would say
just pick one so we can address it. If that's all right, Hayden.
okay. I'll do all men until no men.
Sure. So, do you know what it means? First of all,
Yeah, I think it's like saying
use TikTok for any language, just in case you're using any words that could get you removed.
oh, okay. I see what you mean. I think it's like I think it's like saying that, like, all men are like like they have tendencies to, like, it's like justifying saying, like, being wary of all men because, is that right? Am I kind of on this?
That's part of it, yeah. So basically, all men hold on to misogyny and have responsibility to unpack that. All right, because that's the system that is upheld, which oppresses women, girls, and femme-presenting people. When we're talking about gender specifically, women's biggest form of oppression is gender-based violence. So women being wary and cautious of all men is completely understandable. That doesn't mean every man is dangerous. It means that women will be wary and cautious of all because they don't know which ones are and which ones aren't. Now, men say they disagree with this. I have to allude to them that men actually say the same thing, but they say it differently. So I can give you an example if you like, but ultimately, men disagreeing with it for me is a bit of a contradiction because men say the exact same thing.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I mean, I probably am going to say what you think I'm going to say. Like, I agree with, like, I think that's a good idea. Men definitely have a bigger capacity for violence, and I think you should be wary of anybody you don't know. But yeah, men definitely have a bigger capacity for violence. So I get that, but I think that, like, tribalism and, like, generalizing, like yes, you should be wary of all men, but
what's the generalization if women are not saying every man is dangerous? They're just going to be wary and cautious because they don't know. That's not generalizing. Generalizing would be saying every man is dangerous, stay away, right? That's not what's being said. If a woman walked into a room with 100 men and someone said to her, just to let you know, 10 of these men are dangerous, which ones are they? She's not going to know. So she will probably be wary and cautious of all the men in that room. That doesn't mean she's saying they're all dangerous. It just means that because she doesn't know which 10 are, she's not going to treat some of them differently, assuming that they might be safe when that's not going to benefit her. So I don't see where the generalization is.
No, yeah, I know. I totally agree with that. Like, everything you said just there, like, that's totally true. I just mean, like, like, just in, sometimes people say things like that, and then it can come off as like just like not friendly, like which isn't a big deal. I'm just
saying I still don't see where the generalization is.
I don't necessarily disagree with you. I definitely, but I'm just saying that I kind of think, like, using, I think we should try and shy away from, like creating a culture that generalizes. Even though that I know that I don't think that generalizes, but I'm just saying we should.
Hayden, we already live in a culture that generalizes as it is because men are misogynistic towards women. So, like, we already have a divide, right? So women now expressing how men's actions have led to them feeling a certain way about men is not something men should be policing, tone policing, or really trying to get women to change, right? If the issue starts with men and the knock-on effect of that is women basically responding to their oppression in a certain way, which at the moment is not actually harming men, why would men then sort of say, no, you need to be kind about the oppression we hold towards you for us to change? That's just victim blaming and Darvo. Like, that doesn't make sense to me. You know, like telling a woman to, respond to her oppression kindly.
Well, no. Well, I get what you're saying, and I guess they don't have to be kind, but I think just in general, like, tribalism and,
I don't
like,
understand this concept of tribalism that you're talking about.
well, like in politics, like, people like to group up together, and it's kind of like you feel the need to defend a politician just because the other side is attacking them, even though you don't necessarily have all the exact same views as that politician. Like, it's tribalism. Like, it's not like.
So who's doing that then? Who's doing the tribalism?
I think everybody does a tribalism in different areas.
the state of existing as a tribe or a very strong feeling of loyalty to a social or political group. I
Yeah.
don't see how that's relevant to the all men until no men. Like it involves a strong us versus them mentality. Well, that's what men already uphold. So if you're going to talk about tribalism, then you'd have to say that like men are the ones who are upholding that. I just think that's something to stay away from as a talking point, to be honest.
Yeah, no, men definitely have a lot of tribalism.
I'm not even holding that statement. I'm just saying in general, like it doesn't seem like that's being brought into the conversation in good faith. And as Kitty is saying there, that term is rooted in whitey supremacy. So you're going down the route of adding the intersection of race into that, which is not going to go down well.
Well, I didn't mean to. I'm
just making you aware. But ultimately, you said earlier that this was the biggest prompt you probably wanted to rebuttal, but then you kind of soon agreed that you understood all men until no men from its explanation that I gave.
Well, yeah. I could talk to you about any of these things, but I don't have like a black and white. Like I'm not tribalism with all the men. Like I'm kind of like
stay away from tribalism.
I have my own beliefs. Oh well, you know what I mean. That's just what I'm used to saying.
I'm going to switch the guest up for a little bit. If you want to come back a bit later to address a different prompt, you're more than welcome to. All right?
Yeah, no, I appreciate talking with you. Thank you.
All right, cheers. Okay, Josh, age and pronouns, please.
Hey there, what's going on? How you doing?
All good, thank you. Age and pronouns?
I am 27, and that would be he, him right there.
Which prompt do you disagree with?
Right, I just wanted to revisit just for clarification regarding the don't mention misandry until there's no misogyny.
Yeah, sure.
As far as this, I mean, saying it doesn't exist, it does, but more specifically to the point about don't mention misandry until there's no misogyny, I think this is very, what's the word? Hazardously idealistic, like this idea that evil cannot exist, if that's the prompt. If that's the intent behind this prompt, because I understand a lot of these prompts require more explanation on your part, even though it's just a title. So is that essentially what you're saying with the prompt, don't mention misandry until there's no misogyny, as if like there can be no evil or there can be no ill intent regarding certain groups?
My point is that when men come in here and the topics are to unpack men's misogyny, a lot of the rebuttal that men always come with is, well, women harm men too, or women do this, women do that. And it's like, okay, no one said women are perfect. No one said that women don't harm. However, we are in this space talking about men's behavior and unpacking that, right? So when men kind of deviate to misandry all the time, what they're not recognizing is men and their misogyny is the first domino. If you were then to have a knock-on effect of that after, you might have this, and I'm going to say quote unquote, because again, I don't believe it exists, but this quote unquote misandry, which is the way that women are responding to that. I'm saying that women's responses to misogyny is being labeled as misandry. That doesn't make it misandry. I think men are using that term to uphold victim blaming and Darvo. And for me, that's why I don't see it as existing. I see it as men trying to find another way to oppress and silence women.
Gotcha. Yeah, I agree with that point. As far as a lot of guys do, unfortunately, try to play tag when it comes to holding anybody accountable for any of the disrespect or systemic oppression that women face. Yeah, I don't support that, and that's definitely not what I'm here to do. So yeah, you're absolutely correct about that point. Separately, as far as, I mean, we can look up the definition of misandry, and then we can look up the definition of misogyny if you want, and they're pretty much the same thing, except we change out the word man or woman. So I just have it right here in front of me, the dictionary. If we just Google define misandry, it is the dislike. Yeah, it is the dislike of, contempt for, or ingrained prejudice against men, i.e., the male sex. That's what's in parentheses. Then if we go to define misogyny, it's going to say the same thing, but just take it up on the side, is the hatred of, contempt for, or prejudice against women. So it'll be somewhat interchangeably the same words, but it's just we're taking out men or they're taking out women. But the problem is that people, for some reason, they always add in the word systemic to stretch their definition of like, well, this does not count as misandry because it's not systemic. And it's like, well, we can run it through Chat GPT and say, all right, what are some ways that men are systemically affected by misandry? And then you're going to get a response. So it's just, that was my thing about this whole, like, it doesn't exist. Like, yeah, it does.
with the greatest respect, I'm never going to take ChatGPT as a source to begin
Why
with.
not?
Because it's like not actually that reliable. Like it just goes and finds anything that you want and draws upon all websites that it's found stuff for and hasn't actually proofread it to see what is actually said in everything. So it's just going to say, I'm going to find something no different to men when they say, let's go and find a study that says that pair bonding is a thing. And then they don't read it because the study then shows it's done on swans and voles. That's what men do a lot of the time, right? So when we look at descriptions like you just mentioned, descriptions or definitions are descriptive, not prescriptive, right? You could go look up the definition of a mechanic in the dictionary. That doesn't mean you're now a mechanic. So it will give you a very basic example of what it means, but how it actually plays out doesn't necessarily mean it then exists in real time. No different to a unicorn has a definition. Santa Claus has a definition. Doesn't mean it exists. As a concept, maybe, but in reality, no. So within the definition of what you just mentioned there, one of the words there was prejudice. And we know that the definition of prejudice is based on actual reason or experience. So women talking about men on the basis of their experiences and actual reasoning would suggest that actually it's not prejudice because women are experiencing misogyny every day. So talking about that is not being prejudiced towards men and not hating men. It might be hating the behavior of men, but it's not actually upholding hatred towards men specifically. These women who say that also have men in their, not every, but majority of them will have men in their lives that they love. Potentially a father, potentially a brother, a partner, etc. So it's kind of, an expression of the misogyny you're upholding is leading me to obviously feel a certain way about men because this is what men collectively uphold and what I experience from it. So the prejudice is not actually prejudice. It's actual lived experience.
Right. So a couple of things. I mean, not to completely go away from the ending point that you made. I mean, so when it regards to ChatGPT, and a lot of people had comments about that, it really just depends entirely on how reliable to what you think ChatGPT or any AI that you use for certain types of information is effective. Because I mean, I literally plugged it into ChatGPT just now, and it gave me the same exact definition that Google did. Google also uses AI.
What was the example of systemic misandry that it gave?
No. I said define misandry, and then misandry said it said misandry is prejudice, contempt, dislike, or discrimination. But let's go upwards. Do you want to hear that point, or did you want to?
Well, no, you said that it gave examples of how men are systemically harmed by misandry.
Yeah. So that would just be, and this goes to your point about the experience. So number one would be assumptions of dangerousness. Examples would be people crossing the street at night to avoid a man, etc., etc. Then what was that?
That's not systemic. That doesn't harm men systemically. That just affects a man's feelings personally. That's not a systemic issue. There's no system
Systemically
that is oppressing men because of this.
Well, hold on now. So you can put things into the atmosphere that affects people's emotions largely, and that would be systemic.
That would be personal. You would be experiencing what? A woman crossing the street because you're there. How do you know she's crossing the street because she thinks you're dangerous? That's an assumption that you've made of her. You don't even know it's happening for that reason. So you can't say
I don't. But sorry to cut you. I don't. But so again, this kind of, and I really don't want to bring the conversation to this route. But just again, so as a black man, I'm not entirely sure why she would be crossing the street. But this is kind of what I'm talking about when I say when you have large platforms and you have large entities that put misinformation or they spew a narrative, whether it's right or wrong, or there's elements of truth in it, you can spread it across the zeitgeist and that can affect people's emotions personally. That would include, for example, race, or that would include, for example, just being a man. It's that would be something that would be systemic.
But there is a system upheld which is called racism. That's not then based on your gender. That's different. We're talking about gender. We're talking about men, right? So you mentioned a woman crossing the road because of a man. So how do you know that? How's that affecting you systemically when you don't even know she's crossing because you're a man or because she thinks you're dangerous? You don't even know. That's not affecting someone systemically.
No, we don't know that, but we've already established that that would be a system if it's something that affects someone's feelings largely.
No, because you're assuming that women are doing this to you. They're not doing anything to you. They're doing it for themselves. Like you feeling a certain way about a woman crossing the road, her safety is more important than your feelings. So again, this is just
of course it is.
But then this is just Garvo. This is just saying like you crossing the road is leading to a systemic issue of men feeling like they can't walk on the same side of the road as women. Are we really?
That was not my point at all. No,
That's
no,
what
no,
you.
no.
What I don't understand your point then, because you seem to give the example of women crossing the road and saying that's going to or could lead to a systemic impact on men.
No, not at all. No, no, no. The first point was the assumptions of dangerousness, which you agreed to because of the experiences that women have. That would be a system.
No, so that's not
You might
assuming
have gotten.
you're dangerous. Women don't assume you're dangerous. Women will just cross the road because that is the safer option for them in case. That doesn't mean that every man they see they are thinking is dangerous and harmful. That's different.
But did you not? Okay, so because I don't want to continue on this point too much, but did we not establish just a few moments ago that women, as you described it as misandry, that would be a response to largely how men behave that then leads themselves over to a certain behavior? I think you had another example where a woman walks into a room full of men. There's going to be this established, right? So that would also include them. You go ahead, sorry.
Well, that's because of men's behavior collectively. Like men's behavior systemically, i.e., disproportionate violence,
Yeah.
that's a system that women live under that oppresses them. So if a woman is walking down the street and a man is walking towards her, on average, would it be fair to say that she's more likely to feel uncomfortable than he is walking past each other?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, of course.
So that's based on the system of men's behavior that women feel this way around men. That's not men. That's not like women oppressing men or systemic harm towards men just because she might cross the road. So I don't see how men are going to be affected systemically by this.
Well, I mean, again, so this would just be like an emotion, though. So that would just be widespread. For most men who don't do that, which they don't, they would still feel some type of way about that. But that's just one of them. We can go to the second, third, and fourth.
We can, but I don't want to really. I don't feel like I can move past it with you still believing that's a systemic issue on men. Like that to me is not. That doesn't warrant a systemic issue for men. Like men's feelings of women doing what they feel they need to do to stay safe in this world when they're oppressed by men, and then they come into close contact of a man. That's just men lacking empathy. That's men centering themselves once again in a situation where they have privilege. For men to turn around and say that's systemically affecting them is ridiculous. Well, how are women feeling in that situation when they, come closer to a man?
Well, no, I imagine they would feel very unsafe, again, based off of everything that we went over as far as just the way men behave systemically.
Yeah, so but that's what I'm saying. So that's women's actual experience of the world that they live in, right? Men are not walking around in fear of women. So
no, not in the physical aspect. No, I wouldn't say that. No,
I would still say even if you're trying to go down the psychological aspect as well.
Sure. No, not even that in part as well. I agree with that point. Like, yeah, there's no physical threat that men feel compared to that a woman feels when they're crossing the street. They see this as reactionary, sure. I still think that it just can create a burden for like an innocent man. That was just my perspective. But you asked for what ChatGPT had to say when you run that through, so I'm just reading it off. It doesn't necessarily mean that. Yeah.
This is again, without sounding rude, but this is why I don't trust ChatGPT as a reliable source, right? Because that's not a systemic example. But for some reason, ChatGPT has decided to draft that upon somewhere to say that it is creating like a moment for an innocent man to feel a bit uncomfortable about a woman crossing the street is not systemic harm for men. I'm sorry, like that's just not systemic. There's no anyway.
I think that's a system, but I don't think it's necessarily harmful to men though. But it can be bred by misandry.
Josh, that's not a system. That's women looking out for themselves and like, safety precautions.
Yes, that's a system. I'm sorry. I think we disagree on just what a system is. And if you have collectively women avoiding men, that would be, that's a system that we've put in place to protect ourselves. That's a system.
So again, when I told you about misogyny being the first domino and misandry being the second domino, we come back to the system that has caused this is men's behavior. To now say that women have created a system which is actually just women being as safe as they can, but using that as a way to now say that's oppressing men is Darvo.
No. I don't think that's oppressing men. No, 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 no. No. That's
Misogyny.
it's a very, very heavy word. I'm sorry about that. No, no, no. I'm not saying it's oppressive, man. I'm just simply saying that that would be a system. Even it's still. I'm sorry, that's still a system. Even if it's reactionary, that's still a system. Can we agree on that part?
No, I don't see how women. I don't see why how that makes it a system. That's just a behavior. Like that's what women because
If
in
is
every
misogyny not a behavior though?
yeah, misogyny is, but crossing the road is not like a system.
If
Women.
women are, I'm so did Kitty want to say something? I feel like we're
No, that's fair.
kind
Yeah,
of.
Kithy. Sorry, Kithy.
I'm sorry. We're kind of.
I appreciate that. Thank you. Kitty, 42, she, her. Um, I want to come back to your earlier point, Josh, when you said that would create a burden for an individual man. Why would an innocent man feel triggered if he's innocent by something like this, or by a woman crossing the street the other way? If he's innocent, what's he got to feel triggered about?
Right. So now I've heard this argument before as far as like, oh well, you can only be offended unless you're guilty of something, et cetera, et cetera. But me in particular, like I wouldn't be personally offended. Some men would. And then I also mentioned earlier, yes, race plays a role in that as well, as far as like if it's a white person, white family, et cetera. I may have that internal assumption that they may be doing it because of whatever prejudice that they harbor, et cetera. That's just that's the whatever of it all. I don't think that you should feel triggered by it, even if you're innocent. But there is something to be said about just having that going on in the back of your head regarding, like, okay, so there may be something going on with the reason why she crossed the street. But my personal assumption would just be that she just wants to feel safe. But it's not, I don't think that that necessarily automatically means that I would be quote unquote triggered by that or I would be upset by that. I think that's slightly different.
Yeah, and just to be clear, I wasn't saying you in particular. I just also want to ensure as well in this space, of course, we acknowledge intersectionality and the overlap of oppressive systems, but we do only focus on gender here. So any points I am making is when I say things like all men, encompassing of all men, regardless of race, background, culture, nationality, etc. Just to be clear on that one. So I just found it an interesting choice of words because you said it would create a burden for a man. Now the thing is, misandry is not causing harm. Okay, what we do know is misogyny is causing harm. We're in a global femicide. Men in power are removing reproductive rights. There's medical misogyny. There's misogynoir. Women and femme-presenting people are being oppressed. That's why we say it's all men until no men.
Right. So this actually brings up a very important question that I have for both you, Kitty, and you. It's Lex.
Yeah.
My question is, do you believe that men can be misandrous?
Do you want me to say this on Lex based on what I said earlier?
Go for it.
Yeah. Go
Yeah, it's a good question, Josh. I've made the point quite recently that I think men are the biggest misandrists, and it's often based on things such as, for example, in this space, this is an educational space, and we work with facts, we work with studies, we take this really seriously in this particular live, and how we run things, and the people that are causing the most disruption to men being educated, because that's the primary function of this live, is for men to be educated and unpack their misogyny. Men are continually the ones derailing this or causing harm to multiple people in hearing, including other harm. They're preventing other men from being educated. So to me, given they are continuing, why they want to hold other men back? It's not women hating on the men or being misandrist that's causing issue. It's other men that are holding men back and hating on other men, not wanting them to better themselves or to educate themselves. So that's one point I would say is I believe men are actually the biggest misandrists. I'm not particularly, I don't really believe misandry is a systemic concept as such anyway, but, you know, to answer your question, in this case, that would be my perspective. Lex, if you want to.
Yeah, I'm a little bit different on it, which is always lovely, isn't it? I think it's misdirected misogyny, personally.
Interesting.
I actually think that men are holding on to misogyny, and I think what they do is they express that towards men. Because when you look at the ways that men will shame men, like maybe myself or like other men who want to support women's rights, equality, equity, etc., you often look at the things that they will say about you, right? They'll say things like cuck, they'll say things like other.
He's not gonna let you hit, bro.
Yeah, like and but they'll also use other marginalized communities as a punch bag for, you know, the insults they use, right? So they'll call you, you know, GAY, right? So then that's not misogyny, but then again, I think a lot of misogyny is also rooted in homophobia, right? So I think all of those intersections, as we've always said, they all uphold one another in a different and variety of ways. So when they then look at men who are doing this, what are some of the things they'll also say if they're getting personal about that man? They'll call him feminine. They'll call him, you know, low T, you know, like no testosterone. And they'll start attacking the individual's quote unquote masculinity, because I don't believe in that concept either, but that's what they'll target. Now, if you look at the ways they target masculinity and femininity, they've always, especially in the Red Pill community, they've always upheld the belief that if women are feminine and men are masculine, when they see a man that is in his quote unquote feminine, they're using that as a way to say that he's weak. Well, if they're saying that he's weak because he's feminine, you're essentially saying women are weak because you call women feminine. And you also say that you want to be with a woman who's in her feminine or feminine energy. So when you start directing that towards men, the ways that men do that is towards the men who are maybe supporting something that they don't want to unpack. They don't want to remove that misogyny. They'd rather hold on to it, but then they'll take it out on the men. So like, obviously, again, they take it out on women, as we know, far disproportionately, but they'll use that as a way to also put onto men in certain areas of life. So I kind of think it's a bit of that.
Right. It's like misdirected misogyny rooted in insecurity and homophobia. It essentially is your point about
Other
believing that
intersections
men
as
can.
well.
Yeah.
Yeah, other
Yeah,
intersections.
and other intersections. Okay, that's okay. So there's like a slight, I guess, disagreement with you and Kitty, or perception differences, which is interesting. So the reason why I asked that question was because I think it's the reason. The reason why I asked that question was because, and this goes back to using the definitions of words and stuff and how applicable they can be. Not bringing up the definition because I'm saying that this means that, for example, like you said, you know, I'm a mechanic because I read the definition, or unicorns exist because the definition is in front of us. It's more so just going off of how applicable it is to the concept. So if men can be misandrist, and I mean, this is just a simple yes or no. I mean, I guess, do you guys believe that women can be misogynists?
Well, women have internalized misogyny.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So if this is simply just a concept that both either genders can participate in, and you believe that, Kitty, you know, men are the biggest misandrists, and men are unaliving men more than women and doing all these things and systemically oppressing other men more than women, would that not make misandry a bigger problem if that's the case? If this sounds like a stretch, just let me.
Yeah.
You wanna say-
Lex. No, you go, Lex. Go on, I'm keen to hear.
Oh,
Yeah, it's directed at both of you. I'm not trying to. Yeah. Go ahead.
no, I appreciate being respectful in the
Yeah,
conversation.
absolutely.
I think that so it's
you.
interesting. So when we go down the route of internalized misogyny, right? The reason it's misogyny that's been internalized is because the system has always upheld misogyny. The same can't be said for misandry. The system hasn't been built, patriarchy, on oppressing and hating men. It's been built on benefiting men and hating and oppressing women. Like, putting intersections aside for a second by just focusing on gender, because we know obviously other intersections get further impacted from that because they all fuel each other. That's why I don't think you can have internalized misandry. So when we say men are the biggest misandrists, like, you know, we see examples of how men uphold the same harm to women that they do to men as well in different, let's say, different numbers, statistics, right? I'm not saying that I don't agree with Kitty, or like, yeah, I'm not saying I disagree with what Kitty has said. I think I'm just adding another take onto it, that I think a lot of it is also misdirected misogyny. So I don't think you can have internalized misandry because there's no system that's feeding you the information to hate men. There's nothing out there for that. Kitty?
Oh, thank you very much. This is, by the way, this, just to be clear, on a slightly lighter note, this is often how me and Lex have educational discussions and things as well. We often approach things from slightly different perspectives.
Yeah, I didn't mean to say disagreement like I'm pitting anyone again. I just, yeah, go ahead.
No, Josh, no, it was a really a thought-provoking question. No, so I appreciate it. Thank you. So I think for me, it's all rooted in misogyny, and it all comes then down to semantics with the words. And that, I think, was my original point to come up here as to why are we not focusing actually what is causing individual and systemic harm, where there is so much evidence, all the research and stats are out there. And what often we do see in this space is a lot of men, and I'm not saying you in particular, Josh, I'm just saying other men who do come up, they will
Of course, yes.
absolutely, yeah, just to be clear, they will absolutely, defend and insist upon misandry being, causing harm on some level. They can never provide any evidence of this. And they then want to get into the semantics of it, as opposed to actually wanting to listen to all of this is rooted in misogyny. And let's actually discuss misogyny, which is causing real life harm and yes, predominantly and disproportionately to women and femme-centered people and girls, but also to men.
If I could just add, I think what really bugs me about this topic is when we actually ask men to give, examples of what misandry looks like, as in how is that being upheld. Just like the previous guest, we get examples of a woman ignoring a man because he's a man. Women making false accusations, right? Like, we're not seeing this being done universally by women, collectively by women. And I think that what's really telling is that the examples men give almost seem like men don't believe it themselves. Like genuinely, I'm not trying to say that in a disingenuous way, but the examples they give, it's like, really? Like, that's really, and I struggle with that, because I think to myself, just as Kitty said, sorry, I will come back to you in a second, Josh, but just as Kitty said, right, when we look at the disproportionate ways that women are affected, right, disproportionate violence, which is the biggest form of oppression, but the notes that I've got here in regards to, patriarchy is things on like legal, healthcare, media, social, education, all of these different systems that women need to access, or everyone needs to access just to be able to live, are flooded with misogyny leading that system. And because there's nothing out there that's being done in the opposite, i.e. misandry, that's why I always ask for examples. And when I get them, I think I can imagine it's really hurtful and even, infuriating for women to hear the examples that men give, as if to be like, that's what you want to support. Like, let's advocate for misandry to stop, because women might be hosting a live that says, I hate men. And it's like, you just swipe and it's gone. Putting it mildly, appreciate that as well. Just give a swipe of your phone and it's gone, right? You don't see it again. Are you really affected by it when it wasn't about you personally? Similar to what we said earlier about, are you going to take it personally if you know you've got, like, if you're not part of the problem and you're actively part of the solution? Why are you triggered? Why are you taking it personally? Is it not nice to see? Sure. But that's literally, in my opinion, as far as it goes. It's not a nice thing to see. But neither are the stories and the statistics that we hear and see of how women are being affected by. It's like every other day or even every day, but every other day there's like a new story put in the news, put in a paper, put online of a man doing something, or multiple men doing something horrific. And we're just not seeing that in the same levels from women to men. Over to you, Josh.
Right. So yeah, there's a lot of what you said that I've seen as well that I also detest, as far as guys coming in, and a lot of it, the attempt is just to kind of derail the conversation, or just because they feel personally attacked, they then try to flip it and spin it onto the other person, which is just not effective, and it doesn't really get us anywhere. Me in particular, I really just want to get to the truth of it all, as far as like, if we acknowledge misandry as an actual and legitimate form of hatred, which is why even though it seems like I'm just quote unquote maybe arguing semantics, I'm really just like, the words that we use do impact us as a society. So if we agree, for example, like, men are the biggest misandrists and men are in power and they're systemically oppressing other men, then that would, in my view, based off what we have, would lead to a society where men view other men less than that, of it's almost damn near subhuman. And same thing for women. And this is just, now we've gotten to the point where it's just a very select group of men at the top that's oppressing everybody. Which is, I mean, again, I also don't know that either as well. But yeah, just this idea of, you know, misandry, I still think it does have this psychological and spiritual impact. And I do think, even though it's reactionary, obviously, just because it's not women doing it to other men, that does not mean it's not misandry. I think this is why I asked, do you guys believe that women can be misogynist, and do you believe that men can be misandrous? Because it's just a concept where someone can do it. Like you can be, you can be, you can be prejudiced no matter what your race is, and you can be hateful no matter what your gender is. And if you have the power to do that to large groups of people, then yeah, that would be misandry, just in my perspective. It doesn't matter whether or not it's primarily women doing it to men. I think it's just, if it's men primarily doing it to men, which we have the numbers to prove this, that would be a misandrous thing, yeah. And then women would be reacting to it, yeah.
I'll give you an example. Someone in the chat, Mateus, just wrote, "Hey Lex, misandry does very much exist. Here in Finland, we have obligatory military service for men and only optional for women." This is what I mean about men giving examples of what they think misandry is, right? Like, is that being done because the governments hate men? Or is that because the system created by men decided that that's the role of a man, right? Men making things worse for men. Men choosing that this is what men's bodies should be disposable for, right? War and all this stuff. Like, this is what I mean when I say men think they know what misandry is, and they give all these wild examples, and it's like, that's not misandry. Like, you know, feminism advocates for men to not go and be drafted for wars. You know, that's not something women want. So, again, that's not an example, in my opinion. Kitty, I see you're unmuted as well. Did you want to add?
Yeah, I was just trying to find the hands up emoji, but I couldn't. So thank you. So yeah, and I think and that's the thing, when we come into these spaces, particularly as women and femme-presented people who have been oppressed and who have been harmed by misogyny and harmed by men in the most unfathomable, vile ways from an incredibly young age. And I'm saying that from my own personal experience, and I know many people in this particular community as well. And obviously, we know systemically, based on the research and the levels of harm that men cause, it's soul destroying. It's utterly soul destroying to hear men come up and trying to defend and insist misandry exists, as opposed to focusing on misogyny, as opposed to caring about what's happening to women, femme-presented people, collectively, but also in their lives. They would rather come up here and do this, while some of us are in situations, or have been in situations, where trigger warning chat, where we've been raped, or we've been essayed, or people in here are survivors of being subjected to DV, or in multiple other forms, and we're here and then get accused of hating on men, when we have men in our lives that we love, that we care for. I'm a parent to 2 sons. I'm married to a man. We just want men to do better. We just want men to stop hurting us. We want men to hold each other accountable, to do better for themselves. That's it. So to hear that, as many of us are then still continuing to be harmed and will be harmed, it's incredibly, incredibly upsetting and distressing for many. And at times now, I'm so immune to it. I'm immune to the harm that I get in this space now. And that is not something anyone should have as a reaction, immunity, for that to be normalised. I've got an ongoing police case occurring, as many other women and femme-presented people in these spaces, because of the harm that we're subjected to online, never mind what we're also facing offline. So to hear the semantics back and forth about misandry and as a concept, and it's heartbreaking. it's absolutely heartbreaking. All we want is men to do better and to stop hurting us. That's it. But yeah, I do really appreciate your particularly your last questions, Josh. It was really like a lovely, thought-provoking conversation there. So I do appreciate that. But I'm going to drop just now. But yeah, I appreciate you, Josh. And if you want to continue on with Lex, that's I'll leave that to you both.
No, I think that was great. Yeah, thank you so much for that. I appreciate that. Yeah, no, I don't want to take a bit too much time because I know there are other people like definitely want to get into here. Yeah, I didn't want to yell at anybody or make cause any kind of strife or anything. I just wanted to I just enjoy talking about different concepts of different people and getting to the truth of it all. So yeah.
Yeah, appreciate that, and thank you for being respectful as well. I do really appreciate that.
Yeah, goodbye, everybody. Yeah. Thank you guys so much for being respectful as well. Yeah, I hope I didn't make anyone too upset.
No, honestly, not at all. We try to safeguard the space as much as possible, but everyone's responsible for taking their own breaks and things like that in here. But appreciate
it was great talking
to
you too, Lex. It was great talking to you too, Lex. I appreciate it.
Cheers, Josh.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Take care, buddy. Kitty, as always, thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Bye.
Bye. Okay. Lots of people in the requests, but I can imagine some of them might not still be here, which is fine. Grey cat. What's similar to mine? Age and pronouns, please.
Hello.
Age and pronouns, please.
22 man, he, him.
Thank you. Which prompt do you disagree with? Cool. Right, yep. Okay, those of you that are requesting, can you just let me know in the chat if you're a man that disagrees, please? Sorry. Taylor, age and pronouns, please. Sure, yep. Yep. No, let's try again, Jace. I heard your age and pronouns.
Yeah, well, were you not able to hear me?
I could, but then you
I said he, him.
Yeah, no, I heard that, but then you went off the app, so I couldn't hear you after that.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so what's your definition of the friend zone?
I don't have one. I don't believe it exists.
Oh, okay. Yeah, okay. I think that the friend zone, or what it's usually defined in the society, is when somebody is attracted to another sexually and the other think only is a friend with them platonically. And I think it exists. And yeah, okay. So I think that maybe you have a point out of this. You don't really want to deny the friend zone definition. What's the point you're trying to make so we could go from there?
What I'm saying is that's a rejection, right? They've rejected your romantic advances and they've offered you now probably a friendship or nothing. So you have a choice, which is to be that person's friend or to go your separate ways. That person didn't offer you a friend zone. They basically just said, this is what my boundaries are for any dynamic between us. And it's up to you to decide if you accept that or not, right?
I agree 100%. Okay, so let's move on fast then. About the body count, I think that I agree that largely there's rape culture, there's
rape language, rape culture.
Rape culture. Okay, sorry. And there's and also policing, body count policing, what to wear, what women have to wear is part of it. But I think that partners should be able to communicate their own preferences. So, for example, if a woman wants her husband to wear something, she should be able to communicate that. If there's no coercion, I don't think it's wrong. Whether it's and also about body. Yeah, and about body count as well.
Hold on. One at a time. I thought you were talking about body count. So are you talking about the bottom prompt or the body?
I'm doing 2 points at a time. 2 points at the same time. They're related, okay? And so about the body count, I think that if someone is a virgin or has a low body count, they should be able also to choose somebody who has a low body count if they're not being hypocritical. Like, these are 2 points together. What do you think? Do you disagree with them?
Sure. So which one do you want to address first? Body count or the clothing?
Body count. Let's start with body count. If a man has a low body count and he wants a woman with a low body count, do you think he should be able to have this preference?
Sure. So preferences are rooted in something, right? There's a reason for your preference. And I'm saying that if your preference is rooted in something like misogyny or insecurities, then that's something that's worth unpacking, especially if it's misogyny. So it's about understanding, why is it the body count matters to you, right? You're preferring to be with someone with a lower body count, but what's the reason behind it? That's what's needed, right? If your reason is because you think they might be similar experiences to you, then that would be an insecurity that you need to be with someone or would prefer to be with someone that has whatever similar experiences you think they might have, because you don't know that to be true anyway. Like, they might not have similar experiences. Just because you've both had schmecks twice doesn't mean you have the same experiences. Now, I'm not saying that's an issue. I'm just saying that that would be rooted in an insecure view, because if you met a woman who had schmecks 10 times and you thought, oh, I don't think this is going to work because we're at different levels of experience, then that doesn't, again, mean that it's true that you won't work out. But if you feel a certain way about that, then that's what the insecurity is doing. It's convincing you that maybe this won't work out because your body count's different. Now, there are some men out there that, you know, have an issue with a woman's body count because they'll say she's got no self-respect, she can't keep her legs closed, or they'll compare it to a lock and key analogy or car and mileage. That's misogynistic, because that's objectifying, that's degrading, and that's, like, you know, dehumanizing at the same time. So I'm saying,
yeah, I do agree with that.
Is rooted in something. And men use words like preferences, standards, values to try and justify body count being an issue. And it's not the body count that's an issue, it's just your interpretation of what that body count means to you.
Yes, I agree with this. I think that even when it's a preference, a lot of times it could be rooted in a culture, but I would still not say it's necessarily wrong to have this preference if you're not saying it in a way that upholds this culture, don't you think?
Well, as I said, if your preference is rooted in, if you're going to use the word culture, fine. But if your preference is rooted in something that's upholding misogyny, then that is a problem. So when we talk about religion, for example, or you mentioned like a virgin, right? So men who have a preference for a woman that's got a body count of 0, a virgin, that's upholding purity culture. Purity culture in itself is a misogynistic root, because in history, when women had no choice but to depend on men for a certain lifestyle, a way that a woman was told that they would be more valuable and more desirable is if their body count was as close to 0 as possible. So women were policed on their bodies by saying your value is attached to your virginity. So fathers protecting their daughter's virtue, giving you a better chance to be able to go over to, you know, then a man, for example. But yeah, that's pretty much what I would say on that. Like that standard was never upheld towards men.
Yeah, it's a standard that's definitely not upheld towards men in the same way. Even so, men are congratulated a lot of times for having a higher body count in this manosphere.
Now, if a man wants to say to a woman, listen, you've got a body count of 20, and I feel a certain way about that, and I don't think this is going to work because I feel insecure about the fact that you might maybe cheat on me or you might compare me to other men, so I'm going to go my separate ways. That's fine, because you've owned your insecurity. But if you worded it by saying, well, you've been with 20 men and that's a problem because you're probably not going to be able to commit to a relationship, so I'm going to leave, is projecting that onto her by saying she's the problem, her decisions are the problem. They're not a problem,
Yeah.
You just don't like them, and you are avoiding accountability of how you feel about it by trying to put it on her and saying your decisions were the issue here. So again, it's okay to have the opinion or, you know, feeling, but only if you own it. But I still think that's the insecurity, you know? I
agree with that.
I still think that's the insecurity. Just bear me 1 second, though, because there's someone in the chat who's really interested in applying for the coach chair. It's JD, I think. Just in time, Joe. JD, hey, JD, I've got your chair here, buddy. If you just drop me a DM, I've got a seatbelt and everything. You can fasten in real snug, and you can get front row seats. Do you reckon?
Yeah.
Yeah?
You can get a tray for it as well.
A what, sorry?
A tray.
A tray? Yeah, we can get you a tray for this if you want. We can get you a tray. Oh, that's really kind of you to offer that. Oh. No one else has had a tray before, by the way, so you're a lucky cuck. Anyway, sorry. Fat Grey Cat, over to you.
Do you want a biscuit?
I'd love one.
Not a soggy one.
Not a soggy one.
Oh yeah. Okay. I have another issue. It's not mentioned here, but I think that it's something you may not agree with, which is I think that there's a bigger disparity in social class oppression than in gender oppression. What do you think of this?
Can you give me an example?
Yeah, okay. So, for example, if you look at a man and a woman in the same social class, let's say a homeless man and a homeless woman, a homeless man on average is going to be privileged in multiple ways, but it's a much bigger disparity between a homeless man and a woman in the upper middle class, for example.
Well, yeah, because that would be that would be the oppression that is upheld, from men towards women, right? So misogyny, as Lizzie.
No, it's social class. It's social class. I don't think it's part of misogyny. It's part of misogyny. It's a separate thing.
That's another intersection that you can't ignore. So whilst there might be classism as an oppressive system, whilst there might be classism.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear. There was some noise.
Once you might have classism as an oppressive system, you also have misogyny on top. So there's male privilege that you can't ignore as well. So that's why you have multiple intersections.
Yeah, I do agree that there is male privilege, but it's on average. So here's the issue. I saw, for example, in multiple videos, it's just comments, it's not probably something very important, but I saw in multiple videos people having this opinion. They saw a white man, a straight white man who was, struggling with mental health and having, he was poor, he was struggling generally and failing. And their opinion was he was failing even though he is privileged. So what do you think of this, for example?
I mean, I don't think that's helpful because I think that.
Yeah, I agree.
I think obviously you can separate the concept of someone being privileged, but also someone suffering under the same system, right? So, yeah, that's kind of deviating away from these prompts, but.
Okay.
Was there any other that you disagree with?
I think we largely agree with everything. Can you tell me what do you mean by all men until no man?
Yeah, so all men hold on to misogyny and have a responsibility to unpack that. Women's biggest form of oppression is gender-based violence, and so women being wary and cautious of all men is completely understandable.
Yeah, do you mean that all men uphold misogyny or all men have a responsibility or both?
Well, all men hold on to misogyny. Like, all men have misogyny within them, and it's their responsibility to unpack that. Because every day men are participating in the system that benefits them and continues to oppress women, girls, femme-presenting people, as well as other intersections, but we're focusing on gender. So yeah, men have to check in with their privilege and their misogyny to know when they're upholding that. Because men, if they wanted to, could just continue to, engage in that way and not care, right? So...
Yeah, okay. I agree with the part that more men should have an initiative to do something about it. But what I don't understand is misogyny is defined as a behavior. Okay, so how can it be inherent in all men, even those who do not necessarily do this behavior that is misogynistic?
Because it's not limited to a behavior. So, for example, one example of misogyny in a system, because it's a system, patriarchy is a system, right?
Yeah, right.
So one example would be seatbelts in cars, right? Seatbelts were always made and designed to the male anatomy, right? The average male physique, body, etc. It wasn't taken into consideration women, right? So that's an example of something, still are, Emma, exactly. So that's an example of something whereby men benefit from the fact that if there was to be an accident or if there was to be levels of comfort with the seatbelt, that's only ever really been tested on men. Okay, so that's one example whereby it's not a behavior, but it was something that was put in place that benefits men in comparison.
I do agree with that. Yeah.
But that's just one example. Like there's tons.
Yeah. I agree.
But I'm just trying to explain to you, giving you an example where it's not limited to just behaviors.
I think that we largely agree on nearly everything. So
I do want to add, I think also that there has been recent, like either studies or information that's come out whereby the average phone size is suitable to, again, the hands of men in terms of the average. I think it's around 5.5 inches, the screen size, right? Whereby it is more comfortable for men on average to hold than women. Like one-handed. It's more comfortable for men to be able to hold a phone one-handed and, use that in comparison to women. That's another example. Something that
there's also a more significant example I can think of, which is pregnancy and labor. For example, the position in which the woman does labor in the hospital. It was made for the comfort of doctors, not in an ideal way for women.
Interesting. Well, yeah, so there you go. So again, like, is it behaviors or is it like things that have been put in place as a system that women have been forced to adapt to? This is how it's going to be. And the majority of testing when it comes to things like healthcare, medicines, the majority have been tested on men, right? When we're looking at the ways in which...
So what I understand from your point is, even if, for example, an individual man was not the one who really put these systems in place and did not necessarily contribute to them, just by living through this privilege without doing something to try to help women, since they're benefiting from this oppression of women, they're participating in misogyny and the oppression. That's what you mean?
Yeah, and so I'm not saying that men should collectively now not drive cars because the seatbelt benefits them. What I'm saying is it's recognizing your privilege in those positions. It's recognizing just how many other areas of your life that you benefit from where you don't. And almost like understanding that, checking in with that. Right, other than just like taking it for granted and just being like, whatever, like, the world was built for men, so I'll benefit off that and not care. A lot of men don't care. So I'm just saying men need to be more aware of that. But I appreciate the conversation. It's been a good one.
Yeah, thank you so much. I think that mostly I agree with everything. So if somebody else wants to talk, I'll be up for that. If you'd like to discuss more about any topic, I'd also be up for that.
Appreciate it. All right, I will come to a close soon. So I will be live again tomorrow. I think in the evening for sure. In the afternoon depends. But yeah, majority of the time I'm live Monday to Friday during the week. Well, obviously it's during the week, but yeah. All right, appreciate you. Take care.
Thank you. Bye.
Cheers. Bye. All right, that's all we've got time for today. We are going to move into a few battles to come to a close. If anybody would be so kind to put a link in the chat, you know exactly what's coming. I will be moving a lot of my videos and the lives that are recorded up onto a different platform. So if you wouldn't mind dropping a follow there, that would be incredible to try and boost it out. I'm already putting my videos up there as well. And because a lot of people have explained that there's times where they're not able to make all the lives and they miss them, whether it's during the afternoon or the evening, I'm going to start uploading them onto the app that has been mentioned in the chat by a few people here. So please, if you wouldn't mind extending that support, that would be amazing. And hopefully you'll be able to catch up on any that you haven't seen as well. So hopefully double lives tomorrow, but if the afternoon live doesn't go ahead, definitely for the evening. I think for the evening, I should be back in time if I go out. But anyway, let's get on with the battles. Depending on how they go, we'll either do like 1 or 2. Yeah, and we'll see. We will see. We'll continue the win streak. We're actually doing really well. Vanu's in already with a let's get it.
Hello, brother.
Hello. For those of you who wonder how the battles obviously do work, I tend to try and look for someone who's in a similar league. Oh, love that, Lizzie. Hope you have a fantastic time. Oh, that's sweet. Cake.
Hello.
Jared saw the